Hey Math 1 students, here is your last test review video before you take your test. So again, like the last review video, I would encourage you to try the problem on your own and then pause the video, try the problem, and then turn it back on and watch that process and see if you got the same answer, see if you made any mistakes, and that should help you prepare for your test. So we've got some equations we're going to solve first. That first equation says 9 plus z over 5 equals negative 6. So when we are dealing with a problem that has like a big fraction, the problem is one entire big fraction, let's get rid of that fraction first. So remember, over 5 just means divided by 5. So to get rid of that 5, I do the opposite, and I can multiply by 5. And now this only works because we do have one big fraction. And number 2, we'll see kind of the other thing that can happen with a fraction. So that will give us 9 plus z by multiplying by 5. It just clears that denominator. And negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. And now we have a nice little, actually one-step equation. So to get z by itself, I would subtract 9 on both sides. And I get z equals negative 30 minus 9 is negative 39. And I can stop right here. I don't need to do that division step because there was no coefficient for z. All right, in number 2, I've got m over 2, so not one big fraction, just m over 2 minus 7 equals negative 10. So for this one, let me go ahead and draw my line to keep my work organized. We can't just get rid of the 2 first. We're only allowed to do that when the only thing on that side is a fraction. So we first are going to need to move that minus 7, and we would do that by adding 7 on both sides. That will leave us with m over 2 equals negative 10 plus 7 is negative 3. And now we can clear the fraction using multiplication, since the fraction is the only thing on that side. That will give us just m equals negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Now again, I didn't have to do that last division step because the m is already isolated. There was no coefficient attached to it. All right, and number 3 is actually a nice little one-step equation. So look at this one. We've got negative 4 equals x over 7. So since that fraction on the right is totally isolated, that divide by 7 can be cleared if I just multiply both sides by 7. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28 equals x. And if you prefer, you can always reverse the order of your equation to write it as x equals negative 28, but you certainly do not have to. All right, number 4. For number 4, we've got 26 plus 8x equals 11x plus 14 minus 5x. So it looks kind of messy. Let's see if we can clean it up some. So I notice on the right side, I have an 11x and a negative 5x. So because I have two terms that are on the same side, I can actually just combine them. This will not affect the left side at all. Just 26 plus 8x over there. 11x minus 5x would make 6x. Now that looks much nicer. I want to try to combine my x's, so I'm going to subtract 6x on both sides. We get 26. 8x minus 6x would be positive 2x. So I write it as plus 2x. And I still have this 14 over here. And now we're down to a 2-step. So we want to move the addition subtraction first. So move that 26 by subtracting. We get 2x equals 14 minus 26, which is negative 12. And save that division for last if we need to do it. So divide by 2 to get x by itself. We get x is negative 6. Negative 12 divided by positive 2 makes negative 6. All right, in number 5, it says solve and graph negative 2x over 3 plus 9 is greater than 5. So we're going to solve this the same way we would an equation. just paying attention to if we multiply or divide by a negative on both sides, we've got to flip that fraction. So until I have the fraction itself isolated, I can't just multiply to get rid of it. So we got to move that 9 first. Well, minus 9 on both sides. That will give us negative 2x over 3 is greater than 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Now that the fraction's by itself, I can get rid of it if I multiply by 3. Since it was I had division by 3, so to do the opposite, we would multiply. That would give me negative 2x is greater than negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Final step, divide by negative 2. And because I'm dividing by a negative, I will need to reverse that inequality sign. So started as greater, I need to change it to less. And negative 12 divided by negative 2 makes a positive 6. So our solution here would be x is less than 6. So 6 goes on my number line. I'm also going to put one lower and one higher, so 5 and 7. I'm going to have an open circle at 6 to show that I did not have the equal to piece. And if it was less than, we want to go down towards 5. We want less, the numbers that are less, so we'll move to the left. All right, we've got a word problem in number 6. Number 6 says, a taxi ride in the city starts with a base charge of $1.50 plus 25 cents per mile traveled. How far can you go for $5? So, I'd say there's kind of two ways you can interpret this problem. Do we definitely want to spend exactly $5? Or are we interested in just like how far could we get if we were willing to spend up to $5? So I'm going to make a couple notes here. This is all going to be based on how far we travel. So I'm going to write N for the miles equals miles traveled. So we know what our variable represents. And then I'm also going to make a note. If we want to go for $5, I'm going to say we can spend exactly $5 or less. Because you don't necessarily have to spend all your money. If you interpret this reading as you do want to spend exactly $5, that would be okay. You would just use an equal sign, which is totally fine. I would say we would accept either if it's a little bit vague. So in writing my equation, the base charge was $1.50, so $1.50. And then it's an additional 25 cents, so 0.25 per mile, so M. And we want to spend less than or equal to $5. So we're going to solve this just like we did the rest of the inequalities. This is a two-step. We will need to, let me draw a line down so we can keep our work organized. I'll need to subtract 150 on both sides. That will leave me with 0.25 m is less than or equal to 5 minus 150 is 3.5 or $3.50. Divide by 0.25. Get 14. So we can go up to 14 miles. We could go a little less and just not spend all our money, but that would be the most that we can go. If you set this up as an equation, you would just get m equals 14, and that still, again, tells you exactly how far you could go for $5, but we're going to assume that we would also be happy with going less. All right, final question. We've got a literal equation that we want to get the y by itself is what the directions say. So we have 2x minus 3y equals 15. We want to get y by itself, so we will start by moving the x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. That will give me negative 3y equals, I can just write this as 15 minus 2x. You do not have to write it in this order. If you wanted to write it as negative 2x plus 15, you definitely could. And then final step would be to divide everything by -3. Let's simplify, clean this up a little bit. That will give us y equals 15 divided by -3 would be -5. -2 divided by -3 would be a positive 2/3 x. So you can write it this order, or you could write this as 2/3 x minus 5. So if you tried it on your own and you had that, that would be another acceptable answer.